All right, today we're tackling one of the most influential stories ever told, the New Testament. Now, that's a huge topic, right? So, what we're going to do is boil it all down to its core, a single, powerful story about a promise that literally changed the course of history.
And really, the whole thing hinges on this one simple question. How did one life, one person, born in a pretty obscure corner of the Roman Empire, how did that one life end up shaping entire civilizations, the way we track time, and the beliefs of billions of people? It's an incredible journey, and that's what we're diving into.
So, where do we even start? Well, this story doesn't actually begin with a birth. It starts way, way before that, with an ancient promise. You see, for centuries, there was this growing feeling of anticipation, this deep collective hope for a redeemer. So, the arrival of Jesus wasn't just some random event. The New Testament frames it as the culmination of literally centuries of prophecy. All these writings built up this incredible sense of expectation, a feeling that history was leading to a specific moment. And then, around 4 BC, in a humble stable in Bethlehem, the wait was finally over. And this is where you get this incredible contrast, which is absolutely central to the whole story. The one believed to be the creator of the entire universe doesn't show up as a powerful king or a mighty warrior. No, he enters human history as a helpless baby. And this paradox, it's not just a nice idea. It's meant to be a powerful statement about humility, about God choosing to fully experience what it means to be human. All right, so from these incredibly humble beginnings, Jesus grows up and starts a mission that will, well, change everything. His public ministry is where we really start to see what he was all about. And his ministry was defined by two things, really, his actions and his words. On one hand, you have these incredible miracles that seem to defy the laws of nature. He healed the sick, made the blind see, and even, get this, raised people from the dead. But it wasn't just about the spectacle. He also taught with this unbelievable wisdom and authority that completely captivated people, all while challenging the powerful and talking about God's mercy and justice. But his mission was bigger than just individual acts of healing or teaching. He was actually building something meant to last, a community. He chose 12 followers, his apostles, and they became the foundation for what the New Testament calls the ecclesia. That's the Greek word for assembly, or community, and it was the very first seed of what would become the global church. So, what was the point of all this? This quote really sums it up. Every single thing he did, every miracle, every teaching, every act of compassion, it was all meant to be a sign pointing to his divine authority and his core mission, which was to redeem humanity. But, when you start challenging the status quo, you make enemies. As his popularity exploded, so did the opposition. And this clash is really the central conflict of the whole story. So you have these two sides forming. On one side, you've got the everyday people, his followers, the ones he healed. They're convinced he's the promised Messiah. But on the other side, well, you've got the religious and political leaders. And they're not just skeptical. They see him as a huge threat to their authority and their way of life. And this conflict comes to a head really, really fast. He's betrayed by one of his inner circle, arrested in the middle of the night, and then dragged through a series of trials that the Gospels portray as a complete mockery of justice. It all ends with a death sentence, crucifixion. This is absolutely key. In the Christian narrative, his death on the cross is not a defeat. It's not the tragic end of a good man. Instead, it's presented as the whole point, the ultimate act of love, a planned sacrifice that was meant to fulfill all those ancient prophecies and, most importantly, open up a new way for people to be redeemed. But the story doesn't end there, in a tomb. Not even close. In fact, what happens next is the single most dramatic turning point in the entire story. Maybe in any story. Just 3 days. For those 3 days, everything seemed lost. His followers were terrified, hiding, their hope completely crushed. The world just went silent. And then, on the 3rd day, the tomb was empty. Just 4 words, but this single discovery is the absolute cornerstone of Christianity. Everything hangs on this moment. And it gets even more dramatic. The story says he then appeared alive to his disciples. And this encounter, it changes everything for them. It takes their crippling fear and transforms it into this incredible courage. It turns their doubt into an unwavering faith that would, quite literally, set the world on fire. And that newfound courage was the spark. Because the resurrection wasn't just about one man conquering death, it was the launching pad for a brand new global movement, starting with just that handful of terrified followers. So, what happens next is like a domino effect. First, you have the resurrection, which is seen as the ultimate proof of who Jesus was. Then you get this event called Pentecost, where the disciples are said to be filled with the Holy Spirit, empowering them in a new way. And the result of that? They go from hiding in a room to preaching boldly in the streets. Thousands of people are converted, and that little ecclesia, that small community, just explodes into a global movement. Now, a movement growing that fast needs some guidance, right? This is where a huge chunk of the New Testament comes from. To help guide this rapidly growing, sometimes messy movement, apostles like Paul, Peter, and John started writing letters to all these new churches popping up. These letters were full of practical advice, teaching, and encouragement, and they became the foundational documents for the early Christians. And so the entire story wraps up with the book of Revelation, which gives this incredible symbolic vision of the future. It's really presented as the final chapter, the ultimate fulfillment of that promise that started way back in that stable in Bethlehem. It's a vision of a future where all the wrongs are made right, justice is finally restored, and the entire creation is renewed. So that brings us right back to the beginning. We've traced this incredible arc, from prophecy and sacrifice, all the way to victory and a global movement. But the thing is, this isn't just some dusty old story. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. How does a story written 2,000 years ago still have such a massive impact on our world, right here, right now?